Howdy, howdy, my name is Anashi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we read about, let's see here, the structural cancer, the multiplying clay, the dream job, candied worms, and drain feeder. In this episode, we're going to read Reverse Mirror Voodoo Doll Stick Puppet. That is certainly a title. Operations Table, Cow Seeds, Crybaby, and Liquid Polecat. I'm expecting this whole episode to be very weird. Well, the thing with the long name is safe. Let's see now. The 14 component parts of SCP-841 are to be individually wrapped in plastic and contained in a standard inanimate object storage locker. Except for purposes of approved experimentation, 841 is not to be reassembled. Reassembly is only to be performed by remote manipulators or disposable dudes. Except for purposes of approved experimentation, it must never come into contact with the skin of a living human. Okay. 841's twine component is not anomalous and can be replaced as necessary. Consequently, all experimentation using 841 is to be concluded by using a low-level infrared laser, 808 nm, 300 MW, to slice through the twine component. Description: SCP-841 is a wooden puppet crudely approximating a human being. 14 pieces of peeled and unworked wood from the mountain white birch, Betula cordifolia, held together with twine at the major joints: head, torso, upper arms, lower arms, hands, thighs, lower legs, and feet. 841's anomalous properties activate when it is fully assembled and comes into contact with the skin of a living human being. Upon being grasped or manipulated by a human, it will imprint upon the human, bending it into a configuration which mirrors the human's position as closely as possible. 841 and the subject will then mirror each other's movement, and any force applied to the figure will while active, will override the subject's own joints to continue mimicking 841. The resulting feedback loop may result in serious injuries or death due to overextension or broken bones. The effect of 841 diminishes quickly upon release, fading entirely within 2 seconds. So, test logs. Test log A, preliminary testing of object capability. A1. Seated disposable dude instructed to pick up 841 and lift the figure's leg. Upon being grasped by the subject, 841 bent his legs into a seated position. Startled, the subject dropped it on the table, the impact of which splayed out the figure's arms and legs. Subject fell out of the testing chair as the fading effect of 841 causes arms and legs to jerk. A2. Disposable dude given the same instructions as A1. While raising and lowering the figure's left leg, the subject's own leg mirrored the actions precisely. Described an uncomfortable pressure on his left knee and hip joints. A3. Disposable dude instructed to lift left arm above its head. The movement of the figure's arm caused the subject to further raise his arm, which further raised the figure's arm, etc. So his arm was separated from his body at the shoulder due to extreme acceleration and overextension. Subject expired of blood loss and shock at T plus 3 minutes. So, arm, pop! A4. Disposable dude instructed to throw it on the floor. The subject suffered a shattered right kneecap and left elbow due to extreme hypertension, an open compound vertebral fracture, 2 shattered ankles, and a partially severed right leg. Autopsy revealed that the leg had been rotated more than 300 degrees in the hip socket when the corresponding segment of the figure twisted as it fell. A5. Subject given a pair of scissors and instructed to sever the twine loops connecting the head and torso. Subject suffered complete decapitation and a shattered C4 vertebra. A41 repaired to full functionality with a fresh piece of cotton twine. History: 841 was recovered during a raid on a Marshall Carter and Dark auction house in a blank blank. Accompanying provenance documentation indicates that the item, referred to as a reverse mirror voodoo doll stick puppet, had been handcrafted by Redacted, referred to as a high-value frequent customer and a man of unmatched taste whose talent is known to all, and that, despite repeated reductions in the asking price, the item had gone unsold for 11 years. Resale value. Okay. It led to a tale that also leads to something else. One afternoon at a fashionable clubhouse belonging to Marshall Carter and Dark Limited. Look what I made! It's lovely, sir. You are truly gifted. May I ask what it is? I made it. Use it. Get out of here, ad. Stop that. I made it using the kit that I bought from you guys last year, and the tools that you sold to my friend a few years back before his accident. And the wood came from the trees on that secret island and the secret lake that I had to rent the map from you guys for, and fascinating, sir, but what is it? Well, this is an SCP-476. It's a reverse mirror voodoo puppet. I'm sorry, sir, a what? Reverse mirror voodoo doll stick puppet. A mirror, reverse mirror! But sir, a mirror already... Yes, sir. A reverse mirror voodoo doll stick puppet. Very impressive. You are a true artist. Yeah, so what do you give me for it? I beg your pardon? I'm selling it to you. What do you give me for it? Sir, I'm not authorized to make purchases on behalf of my employer, sir. I'll need to speak to my supervisor. Sure, you do that. This little baby ought to go for 8, maybe 9 million? Sir, please realize that the prices for items for which we sell items are not the prices we pay for items, and yeah, I got you, so 80, 90 grand? Sir, really, I'm not authorized to make purchases on behalf of... Sir, what does the reverse mirror voodoo doll stick puppet even do? Pick it up. No, take it out of the towel. Let it touch your skin. Sir, I'm a client interaction representative, not a test subject. If you wish to purchase a human test subject for demonstration purposes, that can be arranged as a separate transaction. 11 years later. Yeah, hi, I was wondering, did anyone bid on my puppet this time? As a matter of fact, sir, they didn't even get the chance. What? Before the auction could even start, the SCP Foundation raided the site and they stole your puppet. Really? Which is SCP-841. So, next up is the operations table. Which is also safe, but it sure doesn't look like its surroundings are. SCP-842 was housed at Site 19 in a standard 10 by 10 by 5 meter containment cell. All telephone lines, radio transceivers, internet connections, and other communication equipment to aid in the use of 842 must be routed through a central server administered by Site 19 security. Maintenance of equipment is to be done on a monthly basis or upon request of administrator. No security measures beyond a standard lock foundation security door are required. Access to 842 is to be restricted to researchers with level 4 clearance or MTF commanders with authorization from O5 personnel. Written proposals for use of 842 are to be made at least 1 week before requested use and must detail the purpose of the operation and the estimated time of use. All disposable dudes required for use of 842 are to be escorted by no fewer than 2 level 3 security personnel. Backup disposable dudes are to be kept in the adjoining containment cell and are to be prepped for use in 842 by on-site medical personnel at least 1 day before use. No more than 1 disposable dude is to be allowed inside of 842's containment area at any time, aside from the disposable dude in use by 842, and must be restrained by a 4-point harness. So, SCP-842 is a 2 meter by 0.8 meter dilapidated antique operating table capable of remote viewing and surveillance. It will use 842-1 to display terrain, buildings, objects, and entities within the chosen viewing area. 1 will be altered to mimic the chosen viewing area in real time, and any alterations of the viewing area or updated information will be displayed immediately on 1. SCP-842 will not display any anomalous properties until a living human lays face up on the table. Once the subject lays face up on the table, the subject becomes completely immobilized from the neck down, and is henceforth designated 1. As long as 1 remains alive, it cannot be removed from the table. Remote viewing begins when a human touches 842 while thinking about the area he wishes to see. GPS coordinates, longitude and latitude, first-hand knowledge of the location, and or observation of a detailed map of the area is sufficient to allow activation of 842. The person who first initiates 842 controls the viewing area until the expiration of 1. If the controller wishes to view different areas, other floors, or increase or decrease magnification, he merely needs to think about it. So why is it called the operating table? Objects are 3-dimensionally rendered on 1 by the near instantaneous alteration of their body. Oh! How this is accomplished is unknown at this time. Musculature and bone are the most commonly used materials to render objects, but data expunged have sometimes been noted. The controller may tag objects or individuals with text. The text is displayed by use of veins and arteries. The sound from remote viewing area is channeled directly through one's own vocalizations. However, due to the fact that 1 is fully aware of the trauma being inflicted, one's screams make deciphering the sound from the viewing area difficult. 1 must remain conscious through the entire process to maintain real-time updates. Anesthesia or lobotomies drastically affect image fidelity and are not recommended. Medical personnel preparing disposable dudes for use are to remove the subject's larynx unless specific requests to the contrary are made. 1 tends to survive generally between 15 to 20 minutes depending on the subject's physical health, the complexity of the rendition, the frequency of real-time updates that are required by the viewing, and the number of times changes of viewpoint which will require large-scale construction of a different viewer required. Upon expiration of the subject, real-time updates of the viewing area cease, and the subject at this point can be removed from the table. Autopsies conducted on the corpses recovered after use demonstrate massive internal and external injuries. Organs are compacted, moved, or data expunged completely. Removed? Well, I don't know why you would need to data expunge what other options there are. Musculature and bone are warped to a degree to make them unrecognizable as any bodily structure. It is unknown how one survives the continuous changes inflicted on its body or fails to go into immediate shock. Users should note that 842 does have limitations. It is impossible to view areas underneath 15 feet of solid mass. Additionally, the wider the area viewed, the more 842 relies on the controller's own knowledge or expectation of information regarding the area rather than 842's seemingly omnipresent abilities. At short-range viewing, generally within the 10 by 10 meter area, the rendition will be nearly 100% accurate. At intermediate range, around the 200 by 200 meter distance, tokens only represent the general area within 10 meters, which the object could be located. Longer ranges of greater than 200 meters are strictly limited to terrain and the controller's personal knowledge and/or expectation. Finally, areas of high psychic activity or other EM interference can render information gained by 842 highly unreliable. SCP-842 is not to be used for fishing expeditions. Unless the controller knows specifically which location is desired or what information is sought, disposable dudes are consumed at an unacceptable rate. Recovery log. 842 was recovered in a raid on an ad hoc Chaos Insurgency facility located in the Ural Mountains on blank blank blank. Foundation agencies had received a tip that the insurgency was transporting several SCP objects and had temporarily established a base camp in the abandoned town of blank. Foundation casualties numbered over blank agents and blank disposable dudes. The unusually high casualties that were sustained were attributed to the Chaos Insurgency commanders using 842 to organize their defense. Only due to Agent Blank's quick thinking and uncommon valor was data expunged and the object brought into containment. So, test log. Corpse of previously terminated disposable dude. View an adjoining containment cells containing D457 sitting in a chair. No result. A sedated olive baboon. Same thing, no result. D458, heavily sedated. An adjoining containment cell containing the person sitting in the chair. Upon touching the table, Dr. Blank immediately noted bones and sinew erupting from their chest area while the arms and legs fused into the central mass to form a roughly even block covering 842. Despite the massive trauma done at 458, he did not expire or lapse into shock. No blood or bodily fluid spray occurred. The three-dimensional representation of the adjoining containment room was highly distorted and no recognizable details could be made out. They expired after 22 minutes of viewing. Cause of death, massive internal trauma. Well, yeah. D459. Same area to be viewed. The three-dimensional representation of the adjoining containment room immediately erupted from 459's chest. They began screaming. Before security could return with a gag, overheard muttering, "Wish I had a cigarette," in between screams. Details on the representation were extremely fine, including an accurate scale representation of the chair and D457 seemingly made out of data expunged. During the experiment, the representation of D457 got up from the chair and began moving about the viewing area. 459's screams at this point intensified, expired after 22 minutes of viewing. Review of surveillance information in 457's room confirms the representation of 459 completely and accurately mirrored his actions, including his request for a cigarette. 460. Area to be viewed, a supermarket that Dr. Blank had never personally visited. Prior to this experiment, Dr. Blank was shown the location on the target area of a map. There were three-dimensional representations of the supermarket and surrounding parking lot rendered. Small tokens made of data expunged, rendering cars and people moving about the store. Dr. Blank was able to view the inside of the store by thinking about removing the roof from the representation. Upon the thought, the flesh and arteries that made up the roof of the supermarket rapidly would grow or retract. Doctor thought about viewing the produce section in detail. The representation rapidly reconstructed into the produce section, showing objects and people moving through the area in much greater detail. The subject expired after 7 minutes. 461. Area to be viewed, all Foundation assets in North America. Dr. Blank was not provided any information regarding O5 command level information regarding distribution of Foundation resources. An accurate rendition of North America was created. The only map tokens generated, however, were for Site-19 and one for Dr. Blank, which the controller was aware that Dr. Blank was taking a vacation in the city located near the token. The controller was then told Agent Blank was on an assignment and redacted. A new token representing Agent Blank was instantly generated. 462. The nucleus of carbon atom held in a vacuum in Site-19 Lab Blank. Upon touching the table, data expunged, resulting in 2 weeks cleanup and blank casualties. Testing on the quantum or stellar scale has been indefinitely suspended. Alrighty then. Next up is the cow seeds, which is Euclid. It looks like it's a hedge that's shaped like a cow, but it's probably a cow that's made of a hedge. All three contain instances of 843-1 are to be stored in their original packaging with an airtight container. Should any unusual sounds be heard from within the container, disposable dudes armed with flamethrowers are to enter and cleanse the area. 2 is to remain in an enclosed pen with disposable dudes entering every 12 hours to supply grain and water. Any instance of 1 or 2 in the wild are to be reported and destroyed. SCP-843-1 appears to be a seed of Phaseolus lunatus, a lima bean, painted white with black spots to resemble a typical Holstein's cattle coat. The original packaging for 1 contained 5 of these seeds, as well as a piece of paper proclaiming the items to be cow seeds. One is itself harmless, though when planted within 5 days 2 will manifest. 2 is a creature similar to a typical Holstein cattle, save that it is composed entirely of an unknown plant matter. At first, 2 is much like a young calf and is rooted to the soil it sprouted from. However, at anywhere between 5 and 10 days, the calf will uproot itself and begin to grow at blank times the rate of a normal calf. After uprooting, 2 will grow increasingly aggressive. As there is only 1 instance of 2 in containment, it is not currently known how or even if 2 reproduces or how 1 is formed. It is currently theorized that data expunged. I'm going to just take a shot in the dark and say they milked the cow when the seeds come out. 843 was purchased on blank 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 by Agent Blank in a rural town in blank. 2 seeds were planted in her garden and soon sprouted, showcasing 2. Blank reported and was able to contain 1 instance of 2, however the second escaped into rural blank. Addendum: Agent Blank reported that the store she purchased the item from apparently had a couple of displays full of the things, and many people were interested in them. A recovery team was sent to the location Blank provided, but found that the store had been the victim of a faulty electric system and had burnt to the ground. All records of transactions had proven to be inaccessible, as the store was cash only and had no computer-based record of transactions. As such, Mobile Task Force Upsilon 2, Cattle Wranglers, has been established, searching for and containing more instances of 2. Well, that wasn't as weird as it sounded like it was going to be. Crybaby. Safe. I don't like the look of that. SCP-844 is currently contained at Site Blank. 844 is to be contained in a well-lit chamber measuring 6 by 6 meters and provided with 1 cow each month in accordance with Nutrition Chart 844-1. Each month it is to be reduced in size by 2 disposable personnel using shears. Any personnel entering 844's containment chamber must wear a protective suit in order to prevent injury or death. SCP-844 is an amorphic mass composed primarily of human bones, large amounts of dust, and a form of luminescent fungus, which is red in color. Is that what that is in the background? 844 appears to prefer to dwell in dark, warm areas with minimal human presence when it is not hunting or feeding. It is predatory and highly mobile, having demonstrated the ability to hide from assailants by moving across walls and ceilings. It has a particular method of hunting involving lure tactics, which it has abstained from using since arriving Foundation custody, although on arrival it did attempt to use provided bovine to lure researchers nearby. When hunting, 844 will firstly attempt to lure a human target, usually between the ages of 6 to 12, into a fairly secluded area. 844 accomplishes this by leaving a trail of red viscous liquid when hunting, which quickly coagulates into a semi-solid edible mass. The area the victim is lured to is usually an easily accessible location that experiences minimal traffic. Once there, 844 will settle itself into a poorly lit area and using a number of hooked barbs stored within its main mass, secure the victim into place. It will then use a variety of physical methods to incite the victim into vocalizing distress. This is primarily realized through the use of the sharpened bones that make up a section of its mass. During this process, 844 takes great care to ensure that the wounds inflicted are non-fatal, so that his victim can be reused for further hunting. This victim. Typically, an individual will approach and investigate the vocalizations, at which point 844 will attack. The attack is usually swift and painless, as 844 aims for the neck and head of the victim at this time. It will then extract and absorb the bones of the victims into itself. During its containment, 844 has been observed to rest on the ceiling of its cell, attempting to damage lights illuminating its containment chamber and to sharpen bones incorporating into its into itself, incorporated into itself on the chamber walls. So I guess the reason it's called Crybabies because it captures people and makes them scream, but still, holy crap. And that brings us to the liquid polecat, which I'm just imagining is a ferret made of water. Specimens of 845 are to be contained in a hermetically sealed chamber, at least 4 by 6 by 3 meters in size, with no more than 7 individual specimens kept in a single chamber at any given time. The bottom of each chamber should be covered in 15 centimeters, cover 15 centimeters with clay-rich soil, save for a reservoir of fresh water, as well as a dispersal of sticks and logs. The chamber should be brightly lit during daylight hours and dimly lit at night. The reservoir should be continually stocked with small fish for feeding, as 845 will not recognize non-living fish as food. Wild specimens of 845 are to be captured and transferred to a suitable containment facility. Waterways believed or confirmed to be inhabited by 845 should be sealed off from the public and carefully monitored for activity until such time it is believed that all specimens have been captured. 845 is a species closely related to both the European polecat, Mustela putorius, and domesticated ferret, Mustela putorius furro. Specimens of 845 appear similar to a common hybrid between these subspecies, with dark fur, a pointed muzzle, and an elongated body. 845 demonstrates greater prevalence of social behavior and diminished territorial instinct compared to European polecats. 845's anomalous abilities manifest when a specimen is startled, hunting, or, rarely, when participating in play behavior. During such time, specimens are capable of fully converting their bodies into a liquid. In this state, the specimen is a light brown liquid with a density slightly less than that of water. It will most often flow freely, but will change viscosity rapidly if it is in danger of being separated to multiple masses, which has been shown to invariably kill the specimen, and will revert to its solid form if it is in extreme danger of this occurring. Its liquid state shows limited motility on land, but is extremely mobile underwater, capable of forming itself into a complex hydrodynamic structures including fins and water jets for use in hunting fish. Analysis of this liquid state is ongoing, but has revealed the presence of fiber-like structures connecting nodules of data expunged. Specimens of 845 seem to seek out small contained spots for resting, including in their liquid state. Because of this, specimens are known to sometimes enter humans' canteens while on camping trips. If a human or other animal attempts to consume part of a specimen, the specimen will either attempt to retract itself from the subject's mouth, or may force the subject to consume it in its entirety. Both seem to be instinctual reactions attempted to remain in a single piece. Upon being deposited into the subject's stomach, the specimen will enter an apparent state of confusion, switching rapidly between solid and liquid states. Shortly afterwards, the specimen will re-solidify and initiate burrowing behavior in an attempt to escape. The subject will experience severe internal bleeding and acute peritonitis as the specimen tears through the walls of the stomach, muscle, and tissues of the abdominal cavity. Upon successfully breaching the surface of the subject's skin, the specimen will enter a liquid state and exit through the wound before re-solidifying and attempting to return to its original habitat. Except for the whole chest-bursting bit, it sounds adorable! And just in case nobody knows what a polecat looks like, let's polecat. European polecat. I mean, also known as the common ferret, black or forest polecat, or fitch. Okay, cool. So, get back here. Well, that about does it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the next one, we're going to check out the Robo Dude, the mannequin, interdimensional spiderweb, a perfect day, and school of fish. I don't know what to expect from Robo Dude. The mannequin sounds like it might be uncomfortable. The interdimensional spiderweb, also uncomfortable. Perfect day might be happy, might be Keter. And the school of fish might actually be a school full of fish for all I know. Who knows with this website. So, if you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things. And I will see y'all in the next one. Later.